Ta-da.
I just wanted to add one
Go for
thing
it. No,
from
yeah.
a Chase lens that at JP Morgan Chase, really the certification is table stakes for doing business with JP Morgan Chase. And I want to give I'm not the type that likes to give examples.
Yes.
So I just want to give a quick example. And I think about military and veterans affairs certifications. I would not have an idea what a DD 2114 really looks like. I would put the onus on the National Veterans Business Development Council or NAVOBA to be our third-party certification agency, because if we're going to put hand to heart when we are applying for RFPs ourselves to the city of Nashville's retirement fund, JP Morgan Chase wants to be that banker, we're going to say we're spending X number of dollars with veterans. We want to know they're really going to veterans, and it's not someone who may have been self-certified and forged a DD 214. And so we know, we're confident, we're assured that they really are, in this situation, I'm using as a reference, veteran-owned based on those certification agencies. And again, any of those underrepresented groups, minority women, LGBT, veteran, disabled, they each have their own sort of bodies that are empowered to be our reps.
So can I add as someone that's a service disabled veteran? It's called DD 214.
Oh.
Okay.
What
You just
Why you don't
missed
rely on
it.
it?
Oh, okay.
So,
See, I really don't know.
Yeah, so with certification as well, there are national certifications and then there's state, local, county, city. Typically with the state, local, county, city, there is not a charge for that. So like he said at JP Morgan Chase, that's the ticket to entry at the table. So the
Table stakes, yeah.
Table stakes, right? Because they have their reasons and their purpose why they do that. And some companies, they will accept your certification if it's state, local, county, city. And so with a lot of you, if you're just starting out, you may not be able to afford the certification. So get some form of certification through your state or local agencies. Does that
And
make
we
sense?
do recognize city, state,
Okay.
local municipality, but it's a certification.
Right.
I'm not only touting NAVOBA or
Right.
the BDC, but
And
Exactly.
remember,
a certification.
there's typically a co-occurrence, so we're gonna talk about, because
Yeah.
we just threw a whole bunch of
Yeah.
acronyms
Yeah.
up there, and we will,
Let's break that.
we'll break those down in just a second. We'll talk about why these organizations are so key to corporations and why it's good to align with them. But remember, you have a co-occurrence of identity, right? You're not just
Yes.
a veteran, or a woman, or a black woman, or a disabled woman. I mean, there's a co-occurrence, so that's why there's more than one of these organizations, because, corporations and people want to do business with businesses that are in their communities, that look like them, that are, that have that walk of life as well. And so that's where, supplier diversity really has its Oklahoma here roots, right, in that. So I think that's really, so let's talk about these acronyms that we all just threw out there. So, as we look at these diversity organizations such as WeBank, NMSDC, NAVOBA, we talked about that they're important to you, but why are they so important? And also, why are they important to these business owners? Why should they align with them?
Can I answer that? So for Lyft, so I've been a part of the minority certification, the women's certification, the veteran certification. So for us at Lyft, certification is not our be-all to end-all, but the reason why it's important to us is when we are tracking, when we have to report, when I try to get funding, how do we really know who we're doing business with and who they are? So that kind of helps us from that perspective. What we've done also is we accept all certifications from all organizations. There's also the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce certification. So they have that too. So we accept them from everyone. But to do business with Lyft, we have a certification process that I've hired somebody that knows how to do all the certifications. So we're not going to charge you to do business with us, right? So if you want to do business with us, we'll take you through that certification process, but that does not preclude you from working with us, right? So that's it. So for me, it's knowing who you are. We have a government contract, right? To make for sure that when they ask us to report out, that we're having accurate financial reporting, for our stakeholders, for people that we support, the different, they call them NGOs or organizations that they want to know. I know back in the day, when I was at Nike, the NAACP had a report every year, honey child. And then if you didn't put that report out and answer those questions, honey, you would be in trouble. So I think they need to bring those back again. But we wanted to be on the Fortune 500 list of the best companies to work for at that time. And so supplier diversity was one of those metrics that you had to. So companies look at it from their stakeholders' perspective, their image, their brand, their reporting and contracting requirements, and subcontracting plans with the federal government.
What I like about, particularly what you said about exploring various certification agencies or various groups you want to partner with, is that each of those groups offer networking opportunities within their own organizations. Each of those offer a searchable database, which we as corporates go to very often. I remember I've called Mimi a bunch of times at Avova and said I need someone doing something, a veteran in construction. And it's also, they offer training programs that are unique to that particular segment and have also direct contact with folks like us, because we become members of each of those groups. I know JP Morgan, all of the acronyms, the women, LGBT, veteran, we have partnerships with all of those groups. And at the end of the day, we want to include all of those, as I call it, I think I told you earlier, it's this mosaic of shapes and sizes and colors. If we're gonna look at our customers, we want all of our vendors to represent the same diversity that we have in our suppliers, our clients that we're trying to reach.
If I could add one more thing, then let you talk, Ms. Georgia. So each one of these national organizations, they also have regional locations, right, that are in your region. So we're currently right now members of the Western Regional for the National Minority Supply Development Council, because our headquarters is in the Bay Area, right? And so I reached out to him, we had an RFP for about $15 million, and I needed a minority staffing company, so he was able to provide that for us. 2 of them bid on it. We'll see if they'll be able to win it. So you can partner with these different organizations, like you said, networking. Oh, yeah.
Who are they?
Look,
We're
oh,
trying to
yeah,
represent
so,
them.
share.
We are one of them.
Yeah, she's one, you mean the regional or one of the suppliers?
I got a database of 34,000.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's the reason I'm here. Listen, and the reason why and the reason why I'm a member of IBMF, because they do have that, and it covers every racial, ethnic, gender group. LGBTQ, black, white, everybody. So veterans, encompass everybody. Go ahead.
So
You
I
can talk about the
was just
regional
gonna say,
offices.
we're talking about the regional
yeah.
offices.
Okay.
The,
I gotcha.
and I'll just
I got
name 2 of them right now. WeBank, which is the Women's Business Enterprise National Council.
So
is broken-
WBENC.
WeBank, broken into 14 regional partner organizations that cover the United States.
Gotcha.
The Minority Supplier Development Council, I believe, is 22 different councils that cover the United States. What we are sometimes called is advocacy organizations.
Right.
They may be solely what an entity does, or they may be a part of what an entity does. But the best way to think about it is that we are connectors. On one side, there is the supply side. We work with diverse suppliers to ensure they have the business education, capitalization, and other requirements necessary to do business with the demand side, which are these 2 entities right over here. And as connectors, we develop different kinds of relationships. For my organization, the corporate partnerships, other organizations, it's memberships. And in addition to the certification process, of which many of us have scholarships that are available for any of the entities that want to get certified, we do different kinds of procurement activities, sometimes on the premises of some of the corporations, sometimes in partnership, and sometimes now, which is much more what we are hearing our corporates want, is industry specific.
Yep.
Where we could be more intentional, so if there would be 5 of you who might be in a certain industry, we know who our WBEs are. We have 2,300 over 9 states. We know them, and we can make recommendations and put them in the queue for being able to make that match.
What's interesting in what you're saying about the industry specific, and I'm on the board of WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise, and also NMSDC. And
National Minority Supplier Diversity Council.
National Minority Supplier Development Council, that really was the original anchor just after Nixon signed 11458 in 1969. So it was like 1972 was the very first, and I think everyone's just kind of copied off NMSDC.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about what you said is that each of those big conferences that we're planning now, they're creating neighborhoods around the industries. So I'm gonna show up next to Wells Fargo, next to Bank of America, and we're all, just to let you folks know, we're all friends. We're on speed dial with each other. We are benchmarking.
Foot stomp that for a second.
Yeah.
Supplier diversity folks, it's like their own professional network. They're very, very connected in that group. So like, just like you all have kind of a sisterhood here in that shared experience, same thing with this position. And more so, it's not like your IT at JP Morgan Chase is talking to the IT, like, but the supplier diversity folks are.
Yeah, we lift each other up. It's about lifting all boats up, and we're very, very intentional about that. But each of these groups are creating experiences around clustering the industries together. So I'll be on my street will be the financial services street. So when you come over, you can hit all the financial services folks. And we know that when you are going to these conferences, you kind of have a list, you're scattered, and you have this one's over there. So you can literally, if you have a product, good, or service for financial services where you feel you can address a pain point or help serve a need, you're going to have them all right there in the same area. So that's a new thing this year.
And I'll give an
It's
example.
important.
Yeah.
The young lady here, the one that just had the contract with Walmart online.com.
Yay.
So WalmartOnline.com, then she talked to Georgia, right? So she's gonna connect her with the Target people, right?
But also within the industry.
Right, exactly. See, there you go. So, and you'll go to conference, so they have all the retail people together, right? Or all the banking or all of the construction people together in that network. And so like if I'm looking for, we have an RFP and we don't have time to look, I'll call JP Morgan Chase, do you have a supplier that does X, Y, Z? Because we know they've already performed at that level with JP Morgan Chase.
And some of us belong to the I have a group called the Financial Services Roundtable for Supplier Diversity, which are made up of all financial services, including insurance. And we'll send out an email, I need this, and it's a hotline right to those folks, and they'll come back with a list of folks where we all share resources.
So I think what we're hearing too is that you have to lean into those organizations, like lean into the CVOB, we've done 18,000 connections, lean into WeBank, lean into NMSDC, and here's why. If you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together, right? And so as we sit here and start to say, here's that networking that you can do, and here's that group that can help you kind of, learn from their mistakes and move forward, these are those groups, and they're by, again, the different identities, but also by industry. And so if you go to something like that, so say we go to the big construction conference, right? We're all going, we're gonna go build something. I'm not, but someone is. And so there are gonna be folks there that have already landed the huge prime contract, right? But now they're looking for other companies to come in and sub underneath them. And Georgia can tell you what all the tier system is, and she'll talk about it. But that's an important connection, because your first contract's not gonna be with the large Fortune 500. Your first contract's probably gonna be with the folks that have that contract with the Fortune 500. And so being able to meet those companies too, that will help you grow. And that's where you're gonna kind of find that success, right? So, always important, but definitely look those groups up. So we talked about a lot of them. So WeBank, WBE, NC, NMSDC, Novova, I know, it's great, and we keep
They're all
going.
.orgs.
Yeah, they're all
They all
.orgs.
will tell you who your local affiliate is. So you
Bingo.
look up your state, and it will tell you who you should be talking to in that particular region or the state.
And, yeah, exactly that. So there's that part too. So it'll become local as well. Georgia, as folks are trying to figure this out, what resources should they be tapping into for supplier diversity, for growing their business, for becoming procurement ready?
Well, first of all, as what is important is you need to know who your customer or your client that you want to do business with. What is your product? What are your service? I can tell you if you go speak to a corporation, I'm sure you'll both agree, and say you do everything, they won't want to talk to you. You need to make sure, number one, that you're prepared, that you've done your research. When you go talk to a company, you have to know about who that company is. What are the kinds of products and services that they typically procure? And typically that would be on their website, or you could go to an organization like myself. You need to have your act together in terms of, are you ready, capitalization? Do you have your statements, your capability statement. Do you have, and so many of you have participated in the pitch here, you know, can you say what you do very articulately, and will they know at the end of it what it is that you're trying to send to them? Do your research. I think research is really one of the most important things that you possibly can do. And you don't have to look at all Fortune 500 companies. Choose a few, be very selective that you'd like to do business with, that you think that you're aligned with. Then talk to your organizations, whether it's an advocacy organization, whether it is, you know, a women's business center or some of them, how you can connect. Perhaps they know the supplier diversity person. But they're there and they don't want you to waste your time. You don't want to waste their time making a bad impression, because you only get to talk to people once and you make an impression or you don't make an impression. And I'm sure that you'll speak more about it. But the greatest thing is do your research, make sure you have your stuff all together, and then be in a position where you can articulate why whatever you do is better, less expensive, innovative, or is going to change the course of how they do their business.
To your point, we have our annual report that Jamie Dimon puts out at JP Morgan Chase. You can access. It's a really great document.
It is.
It's an incredible document, but it has everything that we're doing. So if you're able to just do your homework with that one document, when you come up to us, it won't be, so what can I do for you? It's like, I've read you're having this issue here and a pain point. Here's how my product or service can help alleviate that or address that. I've had it many times, folks come up and said, to your point, what do you do? Well, I can do anything for you. You know, it's not about boiling the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't want, you're right, you're not going, and you have that one opportunity. So I would say nail your pitch, get that 30-second pitch down, because you're going to be using it again and again and again. And so that's what people say to me constantly. They're like, that's one thing that I hound them about, is getting their pitch down.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
I just was in a class about I need to do constructively something listening. I don't know if I got that word right, but constructive listening.
Constructive listening,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you said I didn't get it right, so
Yeah,
did you not constructively listen?
I did,
No.
I did. But yeah, it was a pause, okay? So anyway, what I would also say is, when I worked for Nike, we had what a lot of companies have what they call their backyard strategy.
Yep.
So wherever you're located, find out what major corporations are in your state. That's who you want to target, because sometimes they'll have some restrictions about they can only do business, and there's some contracts that are specifically set aside for those that are in their city, because you know you want to maintain the economic base of your city. So look at some of the main ones that are in your city. So that's when I talk to my senior leaders. Okay, Lyft, we're in the backyard, right? So how are we going to support the organizations in our backyard? So we talked about regional, and we talked about certifications, and then we talked about having your stuff together. Then you may want to go with some organizations locally that do not do the certifications, but they can help you grow your business and all the things you need, i.e. National Business Incubator Center that's sitting right here, Angela. Make sure you talk to her. So there's some things that she provides to the local businesses, the organizations that have gone through, the companies that have gone through her organization, the top 5 in the city of Nashville are the top 5 minority businesses. And she'll take your business from 0 in 18 months to 0 to 5 employees and $1 million. So she has a whole, so look at your local. So anybody here in Nashville, this area, she does national too, but look at your local resources as well, because the WeBank centers and the NMSDC, they can only do so much, right? So they can also help with your development. They may not do the certification, but they can help you with that. But another 2 things I need to check. So look at your major corporations that are in your backyard. Then every state has what they call their workforce economic development plan that they have to put together for every 5-10 years. And it lets you know what type of industries that they are going to need and what type of businesses they're going to need. So you want to see what's going, they have it planned out, you know this, George, what, 5-10 years out, they have a plan. Then they also have programs to pay for it for you. So always look at your local and then grow national.
You know, so I just want to say, there are entities, and we've talked about this, you know, probably in some of your workshops as well, that are part of the Small Business Administration and are local. So you have your women's business centers, you have small business development centers. For government contracting, there are procurement technical assistance centers, and there are international trade centers. As I started for our organization, certification is not our main line of business. It is simply a tool that's part of a business pathway. So we deliver programs and services for every phase of the business life cycle, but particular to what we're talking about, we deliver industry-specific training. So we have a program, for example, which the person looking at Target would be interested in called Top Shelf. And Top Shelf is a program underwritten by Walgreens, helping to learn how to get on the shelves of big box stores, which is very different than selling somewhere else. Or we're in the process right now of working with food and beverage to do we don't have a good name for it yet. It needs to have an acronym, but one in food and beverage. We have one for the utility industry and one also right now for the insurance industry. But that gives you the exact kind and detailed learning that you need to access that particular industry, because everyone has so many nuances to it. And I could tell you, if you work in the utility industry, risk, safety, all of those kinds of concerns. Food and beverage packaging, SKU numbers, this and that and the other, as with big box. So there is that kind of education out there, and all of you need to squeeze the organizations that are funded to provide that. And if one doesn't give you what you want, then go to another one.
Yep.
There are VBOCs, which are Veteran Business Outreach Centers, which are connectors and will lead you to other organizations as well, because they don't have a lot of staff, but they know what's happening in the area. And so there should be enough resources. The problem that I read in the Institute's diagram was that people were having trouble navigating them. And so I suggest that you find an advisor in one of those organizations that can lead you through the various tentacles that exist and that you could access in different parts of the business.
One thing I wanted to add, and we keep going back to Walmart, our Walmart example, is go find a company that you feel that you resonate with and you can provide a product, a good or a service to, and do some research on those companies or on some of the programming they are standing up.
Yes.
I think about Michael Byron, for instance.
Yep.
He has the women-owned program.
Yep.
So you may be showing up as a veteran, but you could also be on the shelf with a women-owned brand logo. And our partners at the Women's Business Enterprise
Yep.
National Council, WeBank, JP Morgan Chase underwrites the Women of Color program, so we're looking for that intersectionality there as well. So you can show up in different ways within the same organization. I think of Delta, they have a training program. What are the companies that you like, and see what they're trying to stand up themselves and say, be a hand raiser.
And I'll give another example to your colleague, Georgia, in the Pacific Northwest, Dr. Janice Green.
Yes.
So she just had a program, and she had done a study to see where the gaps were. So she had a program that was specifically just for African American women, and so they just had 35 graduates. So I'm a part of that to help them address and remove the barriers for them. So they were phenomenal. They did pictures, they have videos. So there's all these different programs. So I sponsor 2 African American women in the Pacific Northwest. So each of the different regional offices and the different organizations, they look to see where there's a gap in their supply chain, where there's a gap in our country, and where the greatest need is, and they set these programs to make sure
What
that
was that
happens.
program called, if I can ask?
We excel.
We Excel.
Yeah.
So let's distill this down for a second, right? So a lot of information just got thrown at you. So really what we're saying is find an organization, right? You're currently have a relationship with an organization. It's Ivy Matthew, it's on your laser. But there's a lot of other organizations that are out there too. There's organizations that are in your neighborhood. They're called SBA Resource Partners. And so if you look up that SBA Resource Partner, you can find the SBDC, the WBDC, the PTAC, the VBOC, and look, we're military connected, we're really great at acronyms, so we'll get there. But you'll find those folks. And then what you'll do is you'll get the business coaching you need. So we said capability statement, we said the pitch, we said those things. You'll work with those organizations to get those things together. Then you have your advocacy groups. So the ones that we were talking about, the WeBanks, the NMSDCs, you will also form relationships with them because that's who they shoulder tap, just like the CVOB, to say, I'm looking for blank, right? I'm looking for a benefits auditor in the tri-state area. What do you got, okay? And then that's how you have that. At that point, you are also going to research the ever-loving out of these companies so that you do not walk up to Lockheed Martin and try to pitch your hospital beds, because that happened to him, he was telling me about it one time. But you're gonna know what itch they have. So, and you have a very specific, better, faster, cheaper solution to that issue. And that's the conversation you have, not I am all things to all people. I am this very specific, very good thing, and you have a problem that I can solve. So to give that example, Bill said he liked to tell stories, so I'm gonna tell a story. We're at Veteran Edge, okay, it's a conference that we have in Dallas, it's super fun, you should be there. But Disney's up there, Leonard Spencer's talking about, he's not at Disney anymore, but he was. He's talking about, some of the issues that he has. Disney's looking for health food alternatives. They want healthier, so no more Mickey Mouse ear Rice Krispies that are delicious. They're now looking at how do we get, a better, healthier snack. There is a woman in the audience that has a very healthy prepackaged popcorn solution. So she went on, did her research, looked at how Disney does things, how many items do they buy from these small businesses, what it looks like, and walked up to Leonard and was able to say, this is my company, this is my price point, this is how I can get it to you, can we have a conversation? She's now at Disney. So that's how, she didn't walk up and say, I have popcorn, do you like popcorn? Because I have popcorn. It's this is how I can solve this for you. And that's where you're gonna find success in there. But don't get into analysis paralysis over, oh my God, there were so many letters that you just threw out and I have no idea where to start. Lean into the organizations and we'll help pave that way for you as you move forward, okay? So, we just talked about what to do.
Can I build on something you just
Yeah,
said? Sorry to interrupt.
Get in it.
But it's kind of like lifting a velvet rope of mystery of how did he get from tasting that popcorn to getting a contract. That's kind of that gray area. I can let you know that the supplier diversity teams are the ones who are now pitching you to the sourcing, procurement, and the buyers in the lines of business. So by having that pre-training about your pitch, I'm going to buy it faster, cheaper, whatever, you have all that research you did, we are literally, and I know I do this, I will actually put together PowerPoints on behalf of the suppliers that are pitching me to create your story, because then I'm going in and selling you. And then once I sell you, then I bring you in and connect you. So the more you give us, the more succinct you are, the more you're able to tell your story, then I can tell your story.
And I think that the point that you just made is really critical. The supplier diversity people also act as advocates because they don't do buying themselves.
No.
They don't do procurement themselves, but they are the ones that stick their necks out for you. And so I can tell you when we, our organization, recommend someone, we are very secure that when we recommend them to our supplier diversity partners, and that we know that they have to take them down the chain, that we are recommending the best of the best and the cream of the crop. Because, and I don't know, you may disagree with me what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I think that in some cases, not all procurement and buyer people have the education of the value of diverse suppliers. And as with other things, they believe that it simply is a handout, which it is not, as we all well know. It's we're taking qualified people who have had barriers to entry and giving them an opportunity to enter. So putting your best foot forward, as both Bill and Brenda have said, so they could advocate in your behalf is critical. Because when we recommend someone to them and they recommend them to someone else, and that entity doesn't perform, it's a bad taste.
Yeah, I call it the old time, you guys are so young, but we used to have the good housekeeping
Seal of
approval.
approval.
And when I get
yeah,
something
that's
from,
something,
when I get something from you, I know I don't even have to go through the process. I can just start crafting my message. There's 270,000 employees at JP Morgan Chase, and supplier diversity is one door into the organization, but there are other doors, but we are your advocates to lock arms to help you navigate the company.
I think you have more people working at JP Morgan Chase than Syracuse has, period. Like, the city of Syracuse.
So can I add something? One more question.
Oh, I got lots
Okay,
of questions.
but
but
let me add this.
going.
So I'll give you an example of what I was just able to do in January. So I had, people that send me emails all the time, they register, I see them on LinkedIn, or I meet them in different capacities. So in January, I put together a planning event here in Nashville. I told my VP, the directors of procurement, the chief of staff, they had to come. I was gonna integrate them in supply chain equity for 2.5 days. And supply chain equity, there's kind of like supplier diversity to supply chain equity, which is being very intentional and an innovative approach to socioeconomic and economic impact. So I said, because I'd get things like, well, do you think that they might be able to do this? So I wanted to take it from conceptual down to real people and what they could do. So I had like 40 suppliers, including nonprofits and everybody that we had supported. I gave them 5 minutes, I gave them a presentation. I told them one pager, but sometimes they do others. But I said, you got 5 minutes to say what you want to say, who you are, what it is you do, and what some of your challenges were. And so after that, for half a day, they were able to come in and present their business. A lot of ideas and opportunities came from out of that, but they all showed up and said one person had COVID. But I had prepped them and said, this is what it is, and they were like, oh wow, this is this. So lots of opportunities came out of it, and one in particular, and that's why you have to know what Lyft does, right? So we have we are transportation, we're an IT technology company, it's really our platform, but we do drive cars, and we have transit bikes and scooters, right? So this one young man, he's the first or only African-American young man that has Ride Fresh, the little things you put in your car that smell good after you get it washed or whatever. And he has the unique idea that he has a QR code on it, right? And then from there, you can put music on there. We're thinking, we can charge these, these top musicians or whatever to listen to our music. But that was the idea, and they really liked that, you see. But he was very innovative. He was ready. So come up with those new ideas, because we are a new company, right? And we're coming up with different ideas. But that was me presenting to my team who these suppliers were, and I took them from conceptual to real people, professional services staffing companies. So we just had a new RFP for staffing, right? And I had 10 of them in, and we got them all in our MSP, right? So those types of ways, but be ready. When we ask you, be ready, because you make us look bad, we ain't gonna have you come no more, And I kicked a couple people out too. Huh?
Does everyone know what an MSP is?
No, they don't.
Okay.
There we go.
Managed service provider. So you guys know the Decos and the Kellys, the staffing companies. I used to be a Kelly girl back in the day. So what they had to do was, because there was a lot of co-employment issues back in the day with Microsoft, so they want to make sure they separate out employees versus contract workers. So we hire managed service providers to manage our contingent workforce, right? So what we do is we also use suppliers to provide our staffing for us, for contingent workers. So a lot of times it's hard for diverse suppliers to get into that process, or to get into it. They'll say, no, we're not accepting anymore, we don't have time for you, but I was able to get 10 in there, right? So we have 10 in the
We're not like, for us, it's not about how much we make, at least it's not for me.
Right.
Our currency is when we get a win like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we go home feeling good about ourselves.
yeah.
I can see it on your face, and
Yes.
that's the same as me.
Yeah, and they're happy too.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how to get your idea together, how to then work for an advocacy group. So if I've done all that, my next step is find a decision maker, form a relationship, and get my foot in the door.
Yes.
But I mean, typically, Bill Caffer and Brenda Smith aren't just hanging out at BWise all the time, but we love the fact that you're here. So how do I find that decision maker and form that relationship and get my foot in the door?
Well, with me, I've only been there a year, right?
Good.
But so the good thing about where I am, there's me, my vice president, then the president and the CEO, right? So we can get decisions, and procurement falls under, the director of procurement falls under the VP, so 160 sourcing managers. So we're kind of new, we're not like 270,000, so it's a little bit easier, right, to reach out. So right now, we have a website, Supplier Inclusion, Lyft at Supplier Inclusion. All that's gonna be changed. But you can reach out to me there, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Brenda Smith, and then Lyft, you can find me that way. I'm in the middle of launching a portal, which should be up by the end of June. But reach out to me and I'll pass you on if there's opportunity. Now, if there's not, I may respond and I may not have been who you are, I'm sorry.
Well, I think
Yeah.
for us, we've talked about all these different organizations. We show up at every one of those
Yep.
organizations.
Yeah.
The national events, JP Morgan, Chase is at all of them.
Yep.
And it's not about just paying your dues and I'm a member, where's my contract? You need to show up with boots on the ground, and we're there, we make ourselves available. Where we have a footprint, and as you were talking earlier about the local sort of exposure, anywhere JP Morgan has a footprint, we join the local groups as well, and we double click on the regional NGLCC,
Yeah.
WeBank, and we, again, show up there, we put people on boards, we're at those events, you can always find us there. That portal that you just referenced, we monitor that portal. Every single person gets a call back, and there's particularly, we're having a focus right now on Black, Hispanic, and Latino-owned suppliers. We just made a racial equity commitment in the end of 2020 for $30 billion. 750 million of that will be new spend with Black, Hispanic, and Latino suppliers. And we've created a special on-ramp just for anyone who falls within that segment. But the portal we monitor, we show up at events, and I would say that on our website, it's very easy, jpmorganchase.com/supplier diversity. We get back there as well to our folks.
And I should recount that. There's only one of me right now, so that's what I said. I may respond, I may not, if there's an opportunity. But if I met you here at BWise, I will respond, right? So, and I haven't decided to get out there and advertise till I have something to advertise, and I'm not gonna show up to an event and I don't have anything to talk and share with you about, so.
We have a few more people.
I'd like to address this issue
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think that it's important to be transparent and
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah,
This doesn't happen overnight.
exactly.
And we certainly have clients that have worked for several years, you know, after they have formed a relationship for the opportunity to happen. And, you know, being able to meet someone or not, or get your name out there or not, is not always as easy. These are two companies that do that, but, you know, for everyone there is, we always hear about, and many companies do have these portals, whereas diverse suppliers, you have the opportunity to sign up. And they say, I haven't heard anything. I did this a year, 2 years, or something like that. So I think that patience and perseverance is important. You may know who the supplier diversity person is, and you may want to, on an occasional basis, drop them an email with something you think would be interesting. But not like I heard a story, there was one entity, one business, that used to call the supplier diversity person every morning at 6 a.m. That's not the right way to do it. But there are ways that you could, if you do have the opportunity to meet someone, that you could send them an article that you think would be of interest, to say that you've added something new to their business, just so that if an opportunity does come up, you're top of mind, and you've done it in a respectful way, but a powerful way to show who you are. But I want to be the first, and maybe you'll agree with
Yes.
this isn't an overnight process.
No.
And it can take a couple of years. And during that time, you'll have other ways to grow your business, to get clients, to look at other businesses that you may want to partner with, to go in for an opportunity, to team with, or something like that. But it takes a while, but when something does happen and you get that break, it will be worth it. Or else in many of the advocacy agencies, when we do events, we'll invite prime contractors. Those are the entities that have the actual contract with the corporation. And then, as Misty said, I will discuss tier 1, 2, 3. There are tiers. So for example, in contracting, you may have a general contractor, and that contractor hires an electrician and a carpenter. So there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. You may be in a position where you never want to be the actual person that holds a contract, because there's a lot of work that's involved in it. There's bonding, there's insurance, there's administrivia, as I call it, and a lot of other kinds of things. But we have clients that have been tier 2 and 3, and that is the only thing that they've done and made a fortune of money as a result of it. So again, each of you is very individual, needs to decide how you want to grow your business, if you want to be in this arena, and if so, how you want to play in it.
I have 3 things I've written down to just address what you said, which is great, terrific.
I'm so happy I spurred your mind.
You're great. One is about being patient. it's a relationship. It's not a one-off. We're building a relationship with someone. And we might have, whatever you're selling, an incumbent, a minority incumbent, a diversifier incumbent in that thing that you're trying to sell us to. We're not gonna bump them out to bring you in, because as part of our calling, we both bring in new suppliers, but then we also find those who are successful and try to build them and grow them as well. So it does take time, and I like the idea of sending an article. It doesn't even have to be about your product or service. I just read about this, great deal. What a great new CFO. You have a new head of D&I. That's terrific. I love receiving handwritten notes. But the second thing you said was, that I thought of is, let's say there isn't anything ready right now, an immediate opportunity, ask us, who you're starting to create a relationship with, ask for a referral. We know the us at every company. So, hey, I see you're not available, I can't get into your supply chain right now because you have someone there. Do you know anyone, or do you know someone at Walmart? Do you know someone at Delta? I keep using those two for some reason. But we do know the us everywhere, and we'll get on the phone and make it a warm call, so don't be uncomfortable about asking. And then the last one, you said it's definitely going to be worth it if you land a big deal. There's a survey that was done by the Center of Urban Futures that said that landing a large client, in fact, can increase and impact revenue growth within the first 2 years of 266%. So once you have one of those anchor great contracts, suppliers, or deals, because then you're starting to leverage those, because if you're doing business with Lyft, I know you can do business with JP Morgan.
Right.
You can do business with JP Morgan. I know our friends at J&J said, we'll take you on.
Right.
That just reminded me of what you were saying.
And so another thing too, like I had just started last March, and then everybody's like, I'm like, I just got here, they give me 90 days to figure myself out, right? But, when I had highlighted Angela, my brother had gone through her program, but it took a year, right? So when I asked her to show up to things, she showed up, she'd be present, she invited me to Top Golf. And one thing she did too, and I didn't even have a budget yet, she put Lyft up there as a sponsor because they bought a $50 gift card. So then I was able to leverage that, and so now I'm on the board and we're a sponsor of that organization, but that took like a year, right? So it takes time to nurture these relationships. And so one of the things that I'm thinking about, because I'm going to be relaunching my external website, I might have office hours, because at work we have like office hours for like 15 minutes where we can go talk to the CEO or anybody. So I might have talked to Brenda once a month or something like that to get some access to some information. So we're all thinking of creative ways. So don't take it personal if I don't hurry up and respond, because we do have a job still, and then we have deliverables and expectations that we have to meet, and so quarterly reports and all of that. So just be patient. And one lady that spoke on the stage, I remembered her last year, but one more thing I'll say. So Linda Chapman, I met her at DWise or Edge. At Edge, we sat on a panel together, right? Then when I knew that I was getting the job, I knew she was phenomenal with government. So talked to her, she helped me get my stuff together because I had to present how I was gonna set up a program. She now is my government consultant, and she's working with Lyft because we've identified a service disabled veteran business to go after the Big Brother program. They'll be the prime and we'll be the sub. So there's all of these ideas that we're trying to come to fruition, so just be patient.
I'm gonna ask you one more question, then we'll open it for questions, and then I'll have a closed question too. But I think that, we've heard a couple of things here too, right? Just show up as well. So how many times have we heard that this weekend?
A lot.
A whole lot, right? We have some high achievers sitting on this panel, and we've also heard that if you hear it said by more than one high achiever, listen, right? So thank you for the reminder, show up, do your research, and then it's a relationship. I mean, y'all, think about any sort of long-term relationship. It doesn't just happen overnight. And that's okay. It gives you time to perfect the art that you're creating. So just remember on that part too. We've heard is actually Johnson & Johnson has a great story about a gentleman that had great promotional products, but there's 1.2 billion promotional product companies, and usually these companies have their promotional product person that they've worked with since Moby Dick was a guppy. They've been with them for a minute. But this person would just little reminders, handwritten notes, here's this cool article, here's this great trending promo product, and would just check in every now, not every day at 6 a.m., every now and then as it made sense. And one time, the promotional product person that these people had worked with since the beginning of time couldn't fulfill an order. And guess who the first call was? And it was a huge call because it led to several other things. So just be patient and put in the work there. Now, we've talked about a lot of great things, but what are some of the common mistakes that we see? George is like, I'm so ready, this is my
Yeah, I wrote it down, and this is speaking on behalf of these two.
Yeah.
Don't promise more than you can deliver.
Yes.
Again, it's don't say that you could do everything. Don't promise you could deliver something that you can't. So that was for them. And for you, for everybody out here, don't undervalue your product and service. And I could say that this is, in particular, something that women do. You know, when we're doing our pricing, when we're doing something like that, we think that if we do it less expensive, that we're going to get the contract or something else is going to happen. But what is going to happen is you're going to lose money. What is going to happen, you're not going to be able to satisfy that contract. And what is going to happen is that you're going to have a bad mark. So, you know, those are two what I think are very, very critical things to keep in mind. You know, as you negotiate, be sure to understand what your business is about and what you need to make a profit. Really, really, really important, pricing. And then, you know what you could deliver and don't say, I can do more or in a different kind of time. And the third thing that I would say is understand risk.
Yes.
Your risk as well as the risk that your company has. And if you're a solopreneur, for example, what happens if, God forbid, you get hit by a car? Well, if you get hit by a car, maybe that's a little too extreme.
What if you win the lottery and don't want to do your business anymore?
No,
Yeah.
but that's another extreme. I'm just saying that, you know,
Life happens.
and if I am wrong, tell me this. They appreciate when you go and talk to corporate America, when you say, I know that this is a risk and this is what I've done to mitigate that risk. This is how I'm going to deal with this issue. And I know that this is one of your risks, and this is the research I've done to show how my solution is going to mitigate that. So those would be three really, really important things and points to keep in mind.
You want your name in their mouth for the right reason, not the wrong reason. So under promise, over deliver, because otherwise you're going to change your name, and that's real annoying.
Definitely the risk understanding the risk mitigation, particularly now with some of the cyber requirements that
Yes.
a bank, for instance, that's so regulated has. If you've been knowing that sort of information and understanding what some of the compliance potholes are, you're steps ahead of others who are offering whatever you're offering. The two things I'm just going to reinforce is having a strong pitch. Don't have a weak pitch. Do whatever you can to make that just an 8, knock it out of the ballpark. We talked about impatience. I love the whole idea of a note, follow up, even if it is every 6 months. You just follow up. And I say this, and it's building off something you said earlier. We are holding our Tier 1 non-diverse suppliers, which is FedEx, I mean, anyone that we would,
Amazon,
anyone we're partnering with, we're holding them responsible to buy more from minority and historically underrepresented firms to the point where they have to make a commitment to us in writing. And right now we call them our gold suppliers, it's our top 100 suppliers. And right now, we've got about 50% of them have shared what their commitments are and what they're going to do over the next 3 years. And just those 50% so far, and they all have to as part of being in this gold supplier program, that alone has been a $9 billion of new spend with diverse suppliers that we have committed. And they are coming to us to say, we need more diverse suppliers. We don't know where to find them.
Yeah.
So that person who's dialing that we don't have an opportunity, we're sharing their name with all of those Tier 1 suppliers.
So there's so many things. So one thing Bill and we kind of talked about, those that are serious about what it is we do, we put a lot of time, effort, energy, and love. And we talked about situations that hurt our feelings after you do all this, right? So there was this one supplier, I should have known better, so I brought him in, was going to put him in the MSP. Then there was an opportunity on this RFP. So I gave it to him, right out, and I said, can you do this? Yes, I can, right? So 3-4 days before the thing was ready, can you do it? Yes. The day before, no, I can't do it, I can't answer these questions, I got other things that are more important, right? And I'm thinking, now I'm getting you like direct access right into the MSP, you know it's hard to get into that, and to bid on this $15 million contract. And we were gonna let them do it regionally, not just nationally, we were gonna let them carve it out regionally. So when you work like that, that does hurt, doesn't that hurt our feelings? Because we really care. So then I just told my sourcing person, kick him out, he don't need to be in there, because he may come up with some more stuff later, you know, so you're not gonna put me at that kind of risk. So those are the kind of things we go through. There was one more thing I wanted to say, but I forgot because I'm old some days. But
We'll get there.
those types
It'll come back to you.
of situations happen, and I can't remember, but that was really near and dear to my heart, that, you know, my company's on board, bringing you on, and it was a service disabled.
And it boils down to
The veteran,
communication,
It hurts your
right?
feelings, but it also then jeopardizes your credibility with
Yeah.
the sourcing and
It
procurement.
does,
What
it
does
does,
sourcing-
exactly.
Yeah, crying wolf, well, here's another one. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Well,
know you're.
But I told them, I
And
said,
think of
take
the
them
example
out.
you just
Yeah,
set.
yeah.
So if you do that in
I took them out.
SDVSOB, right? So if you're an SDVSOB and you just heard Brenda's feelings,
Then you're an
now
SOB.
the next SDV.
Yeah. That's about what I called it too. I said, take that mofo,
And then-
out of that process. She said, okay, Brenda.
And then the next SDVSOB that walks along, we're like,
Yeah.
no, that didn't work out the last time. I'd also say watch for trends too.
Yeah, trends.
So what Bill just talked about, the, you know, holding the tier ones or the gold suppliers in this case, responsible. Other companies look at that, see JP Morgan Chase doing that, and then say, oh, we gotta do that too. And so then you're gonna start to see this trend emerge, right? It's the same thing that, and a lot, again, all the supplier diversity folks, they're friends.
Yeah.
They go to like secret campouts, I
Don't-
think,
don't
like
do
it's a whole
this.
thing. And so, but I think, you know, the other part of it is too, is that they also, there's other trends that they'll start. So you'll see, there was, you know, with the CVOB partners, there was a company that was saying, you know, for our